Evening, everyone. Thank you all for bearing us through the long day of really great informative session. Before I start up with the session with the DPDPA agreeing with all the stakeholders who have presented their views today, I request you all to kindly share your feedback. It will actually help us to understand your perspective as well and ensure we tailor our understandings and improve the next part of the value delivery to you in terms of our sessions. And that will be really grateful. Sakshi, if you can please share the feedback form once again in the chat window. And continuing to the DPDPA session, which is your Digital Personal Data Protection Act, which has been recently released in 2023 August. And as we've been discussing across throughout the day, it's been on the table of every banker, every designated CXO, trying to understand what are the things what are the things or the action plan that we need to start taking across, what are the things that we need to start thinking, and what are the action plan that we need to start keep taking in motion, right? So as rightly pointed out in the last part of the previous panel discussion, where the data has become the key aspect of the concentration across all the digital products, where we have been discussing across how is it important to improve the services, improve the personalization across the aspects, which has been the basic expectation of every customer on a digital product, right? So with lack of any of those things, we can't imagine a product being rightly being valued by the customer, or we see the higher adoption being built upon. So in that particular context, let us understand how and why DPDPA is important in today's aspect, and how is it going to transform, which most of us are agreeing as of today in the banking industry. So trying to understand, most of the exploration aspects has been, through a global phenomenon where GDPR has been something that which started most of the countries have been looking at. And in 2019, India first came up with a personal data protection bill, which have been going through several motions across the government, and the DPDPA draft bill was released in 2023. Before we continue to the next parts of the session, one particular aspect most organizations are asking is, when is the enforcement of this act coming in, right? So, we strictly believe it is around the corner. Most of the acts, as such as the DPDPA, mostly are released to the ecosystem, trying to understand where is the impact, how are the organizations responding, and gradually from the previous acts which have been released across, we see that it is around 12 to 14 months from the date of release of the act, the next action plan is being built upon. But even before those enforcements come into picture, if at all, we see how the regulators have been responding. Several of the governance aspects have been being imbibed into banking. We see most of the discussions today coming back as governance by design being something that most organizations are exploring. Privacy by design is something most organizations are exploring. Compliance and safety as a design is something that, again, most of the people are speaking about, right? So this is all boiling down to, at the end of the day, where most organizations are concentrating on improved consent management, understanding where the data controls are, how the data security controls can be put into place, how do they improve the assessment of the data and the impact of the data that is being captured across the products, and how do you undertake data audit as a feature, or a data audit in terms of the fintechs on being onboarded, or the several of the open banking partnerships which are being explored, right? So why has this become the key focus as of today is with the increased utilization of the data. Digital product is nothing without the data, right? So that's where there is more and more utilization of the data, and we've been listening to a lot of data breaches or misuse of data being prominently happening in the last couple of years, right? That's where even we see that most of the financial institutions are undergoing this rigorous audits by the regulators, and including the self audit or internal audits, pointing out to several of the compliance aspects that need to be imbibed into the data privacy side, right? So that's where with the increase in the data exchange happening between the partners, these are all some of the aspects that most financial institutions are concentrating upon. Because as we've rightly discussed in the previous panel, where the financial institutions are expected to be the data fiduciary, where they are the ones who are the custodians of the data. They are the ones who are capturing the consent or capturing the purpose of the data, and have to ensure it is being rightly utilized across validity or the lifetime of that particular data. And most of the key other participants who are expected to be a part of the DPDPA implementation in most of the organizations are your data protection officer. This particular officer could be responsible to the board of directors and could be the POC for grievance redressals in the organizations. Your data principal is nothing but the customer or the person or the entity who the data belongs to. And the consent manager here, when we start speaking about, in the next slides, we will, while we explore it in depth, I would like to bring it to your attention that it needs to be imbibed into every part of the digital journey of every product that is being in place. And technology is going to play a major role while we ensure the necessary checks are in place, necessary interventions are put in place to check for the consent of the data that is being processed or being utilized at every step of the journey. So that is something that is going to be the key. While most of the technology systems as of today are designed to scale, with the consent manager coming into the picture, it will add to the additional requirements in between the journeys which need to be happening in the backend. And we also have the data processors, which are, third-party platforms, which are actually helping the data fiduciaries process the personal data or utilize the personal data efficiently, right? So these are also at the key focus of the DPDPA bill. Moving on to understanding why and where is this DPDPA going to concentrate upon in terms of the data, is for a data custodian, it belongs to, the most concentration is going to be on identity data, which is your, for the Indian context, mostly your name, Aadhaar, PAN number, or address coming into the picture. On the financial data, which is being, till date, most of them actually maintain it as a private data and being shared only with the, on a specific purpose, but it is, if at all we say that particular printed information or something report that we are sharing across the digital medium can be shareable without the consent of the customer, right? So that's something we are trying to bring in through the account aggregator, where the consented utilization of this financial data is something most financial institutions are trying to bring into the design. And the health data, medical records is something that, again, as of today, is freely available, right? We've seen several instances of the leakage of the medical data across the country in the last couple of years. And the mobile permissions, if at all we see as of today, as a customer, when you download a particular app, to serve the customer better, most organizations end up taking most permissions, where the data that is available in the device is free for the consumption. So it does not have to always be your browser data. It could be your in-app data of several other applications that you have, your storage, where you're actually downloading several documents and saving across your pictures or many other things that are already existing in the mobile, right? And you also have several other data points coming from your browser, where today your location is being something that is tracked, your frequent visits is something that is being tracked. What is your last transaction on your Amazon or Flipkart or any other gig platform or e-commerce platform is something that is tracked, right? So overall, with so much of data available for digital products, it is important to actually bring in that consented architecture, where the consent does not only take into consideration of the consent for capturing this data, but also specifies the purpose to the customer why this particular data is being captured, and having a notice or a validity to this particular data that is being captured along with the purpose is something mostly it is going to be enforceable through the DPDPA. And it not only with this particular validity and consent, but also it will collect and limit the usage of data that is being captured across. So if at all, let's say, just widely exploring and thinking out loud to help you understand better. So let's say if at all we are capturing this particular data as a part of the journey to actually give a personal loan to a particular customer on a third-party platform, the data fiduciary, being the bank here, has to clearly take the purpose, clearly state the consent for the customer to understand, and put that particular notice with the validity of the data being exactly the duration of the loan that is being considered, right? Post that, the anonymized data is something that they have to capture, and also providing the customer to delete the consent that is being given, or withdraw the consent that is being given, or modify the data that is actually being provided, or help the customer choose what data can a data fiduciary or a third party can utilize in the backend, and what data cannot be utilized. So bringing all these into a design in a digital journey is something most of the financial institutions are already exploring. And in that particular aspect, having a particular system being responsible in the backend, or in the journey to actually collect the purpose, consent, and notice, and constantly keep checking whenever the data is being utilized across the systems is going to be the key. And as we are speaking about, as we spoke about certain examples, I mean, to just give another set of example on how it is going to actually transform the DPDPA side is, I mean, in the current aspect, a bank or an NBFC partnering with a fintech and providing several services to the customer has become a day-to-day aspect, right? So with many of the customers coming on to these platforms to onboard and utilize several services, it's not only at the accountability of the I mean, front-ending partner or the fintech, which is actually servicing the customer, but the bank has to gets the ownership, where the regulator may turn to the bank to actually start looking at how the data is being utilized as compared to the fintech. That's where even today, where we've speaking, I mean, today we've been exploring across the panel on how the indirect compliance is something that is being put across as a checkpoint for the fintechs to follow, where the banks are trying to put into the compliance aspects, right? So on the other side, third-party players like your LOS, LMS platforms who are standard, I mean, who have standardized their services and are and where most of the data is being explored through APIs, is something most of the organizations have for consumption, right? So how is it being utilized across a standard API stack? What is the extent of the utilization is something most of the data fiduciaries have to diligently keep checking in the backend as well. Moving on to the aspects of what are these touch points where we see the DPDPA coming into the picture, or most of the organizations have to focus is on digital products that we've been discussing across during this particular conversation. It could be your digital lending, fixed deposits, bank account opening, or just the digital bank onboarding, something that is there. Online insurance or online wealth products is something that most of the other guys are exploring. And it also boils down to the digital interfaces which are being consumed across your economy or e-commerce platforms, right? This could be several marketplaces, several SaaS players, or several embedded finance applications which are being utilized in the backend. And most of the digital engagement products, which are mostly on the digital data uploads, data pulls, and many other aspects. So, I mean, we've spoken extensively on the custom consent management, where consent needs to be taken and specified along with the purpose and the validity to the customer, also providing them the control to revoke and withdraw that particular consent as required. And for a data fiduciary, they shall have to appoint a data protection officer, have a data auditor who constantly keeps checking out the data that is being not only utilized internally, but across all the other partners in the backend, and undertake periodic privacy impact assessments across the organizations. And I mean, this is something Samir also touched upon on the impact of the DPDPA. I mean, on the organizational impact as something that we've already checked upon on the appointing of the digital protection office, data protection officer. But there could also be several structural changes coming in the technology and risks departments. And we also expect a lot of board oversight coming into the picture. Product design journey is something that we've already explored in bringing privacy by design, compliance by design, governance by design into the aspects of DPDPA is going to be the key. Where each of the journey needs to be relooked upon, and bringing the consent manager as a intermediary to keep checking the particular journey along with the customer. And several of the other technology impacts could be on your APIs, which are currently there, and it could be they could be routed through your consent systems, which needs to be much more robust. And imagine not only just thousands of API pulls happening, but thousands of API checks happening in to understand the consent as well as the validity of that particular consent, right? So that's how the systems need to actually start being more resilient, ensure the scale up in the backend is also possible. And I mean, as most of us clearly explored, there could be huge investments on this particular side, be it on the technology or the security controls. And this is all to actually ensure that the control over the data exists with the data fiduciary and with the data principle. I mean, coming to the key aspect that we've been exploring throughout this presentation, what is the agenda for the CEOs to focus on? And the other key players who will be a part of the DPDPA compliance is your CTO as well as the CDO in an organization where not only, technology is something that they'll start focusing upon, security aspects, and your digital product is something that they'll start exploring upon. Journey is something that they'll complete journey from completely reimagining it, ensuring that the consent is imbibed in every step is something that they'll start exploring, right? So while we've segregated the responsibilities here, it is at the only together a CTO and CDO can actually achieve these requirements, where compliance with the DPDPA is going to be the key, where all of these only when they work together can actually start working. And speaking of the CEO's agenda, not only just appointing a DPO, that is your data protection officer, will be the key, but also understanding and being familiar with the required frameworks and tools that can actually help comply with the DPDPA, or maybe imbibing something like your unified compliance framework that can actually start putting the necessary checks in the back end, can start helping and have a better risk and compliance posture in the organization, right? So overall, the CEO's role could be not only just balancing the data protection between the business strategy and technology strategy, but also safeguarding the interests of the data and the customer, being the custodian being the leader of the data fiduciary, right? So that's where the focus will be on, and having to take the responsibility for entire risk management across the organization to be more holistic in nature, and have more customer-centric focus with not only just the consent by design, but also bringing governance by design, privacy by design, and all the other aspects into the motion is going to be the key. And providing necessary and timely support to all the stakeholders, because the data of compliance and all these things are something most of us actually look into, but actually bringing out these aspects and putting them into motion and applying them on day-to-day basis can only happen with the real-time support happening in the organization, and with the leading by example, and the leadership and culture being fostered for the DPDPA in an organization is going to be the key. With that, we actually come to the end of the DPDPA session today, and we'd like to explore in case there are any questions that any of us would like us to answer.
Yeah, thanks, Deepak. Thank you very much. So I do. We have come to the end of the session, but definitely lots of the questions have been there and pretty interesting questions. But don't worry, since we are run out of the time, but we'll pick up all the questions and prepare a proper response to the questions, and we'll release on our LinkedIn handle. But with that note, thank you very much. And we don't worry, we are also coming with I'll just my screen. As Samir was talking about, in just a couple of days, we are bringing in a detailed white paper on emerging trends and the practices in the risk and compliance for banking, which expand to the NBFCs and everyone. So we'll come and release that on the 30th of May, 2024. You all will receive a white paper and will also be available on our website. So with that note, I'll take a stop over here, but like to thanks everyone, each one of you, to be patiently listening out, participating in the discussion. I know we've not been able to respond to the questions mostly, but don't worry about it. As I've been talking about, we'll prepare a response and reach out to you. But with that, thanks to everyone from all panelists, to also very thankful to them that to taking out sessions, the leaders coming and sharing their thoughts, and to all my team members. So thank you for everyone. Thank you very much. It was amazing interacting with you during the 3 hours of the session. It's not easy to holding up, but thank you very much.